Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. So other stories now. The National Peace Council has triggered full engagement with the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, and the New Patriotic Party, the NPP, ahead of the anticipated by-election in Akwatia constituency. The move comes barely 4 days after chaos that nearly marred the Ablekuma North parliamentary elections. The incident, which involved attacks on journalists and a former fisheries minister, Hawa Kumsin, have raised serious concerns over potential escalation of the situation in the next by-election. Executive Secretary to the National Peace Council, Dr. George Amwa, says the council has activated its regional arm to begin engagement with two major political parties ahead of the elections.
We have the opportunity to change the narrative, and particularly, like you said, going to Akwatia. I have, by the instructions of the chairman of the Peace Council, we've asked our regional Peace Council to begin talking to the political parties, to begin brokering the necessary, things that we have to do to ensure that we go to Akwatia and get it right. You remember, ahead of the 2024 elections, the police did very well. Yeah. We had three very, tough elections, closely run elections, but they were able to hold on. Yes, so we've started our engagement processes. I think that is what we are mandated to do to prepare the minds and the hearts of our people, the electors, for a peaceful election. So I have spoken with my regional secretary in the Eastern region, and they are going to start that. We also want to know who are going to contest on a ticket of both the NDC and NPP and any other party who will be involved, so that we can target them and try to prepare them for a peaceful election.
Meanwhile, there are raging calls from the Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, for a full-scale investigation into the inability of the police to foil the attacks on Friday.
So, if there's some problem with the police being able to do its job, we should know. Is it interference? Are they saying they can't do their job and because somebody is ordering them not to? And that's why we asked the police council that has control and direction over the police to make an inquiry. We need to it's not just finding the perpetrators. I think that's a first step, a very first important step to changing this course. But we need to get to the bottom of this because I'm glad that you are focusing on Akwatia, but it's even beyond Akwatia.
A former secretary to the Emil Short Commission, which investigated the 2019 Ayawasu West Wuogon by-election violence, Professor Kofi Abuchi says the independent body must be triggered to investigate the matter, as he expressed frustration over government's inability to fully implement the commission's report.
When the police misbehave, quote unquote, the police will have to investigate the police. And it's counterintuitive to think about it this way. So in many jurisdictions, what they have is an independent body that oversees the police when there are complaints about the police. Because typically it doesn't make sense for an entity to investigate itself. The entity can, but given our history, we normally don't go far when an entity investigates itself. These recommendations can still be implemented. It is a matter of big regret for me, as I indicated earlier, why the government that spent money to set up the commission substantially rejected the recommendations of the commission, many of which are so difficult to reject if you ask me, if you face the facts, because the hearings were actually public and everybody saw what happened. There are people who haven't recovered from that till today. There are people who have severed limbs. There are people who suffered greatly because of the Ayawasu Commission violence. And to think of the fact that we substantially rubbished the outcome of the commission's work, merely because, of disagreements with the outcome, is one that I find quite troubling. And as I indicated, the report is still there and it can be implemented. And we still have a lot more elections ahead of us moving forward into the future.
Well, let's explore this further and speak to some of the political parties involved in this. Join us on the telephone now is Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Haruna Muhammad. We appreciate your time here on the Pulse. I'm wondering, has your side been invited by the police yet to provide evidence in connection with the key incidences we saw at Ablekuma North? Haruna, you have to unmute for me to hear you clearly. I'm wondering if you've been invited by the police, the NPP as a political party, to help provide evidence in connection with the chaotic scenes we saw at Ablekuma North.
Invited as in?
Invited to help provide evidence in connection to the investigations.
First and foremost, I don't know the basis on which we are going to be invited.
Okay.
If there is any invitation at all by the police and there is any seriousness to unravel the perpetrators of these heinous crimes that were meted out to the citizens of Ghana, more especially the way women were dehumanized in the manner in which it was done. People were beaten like animals. Yesterday, myself and my colleague was on your program, which is the PMS Press. He said he can identify some of them, and they are NDC members. So if there is any invitation at all, I believe that the NDC people should be invited to identify them or bring them to help the police in the investigation. We've also seen a viral video that is going around where these people who have gone to display their violent architecture per the history of the NDC were being rewarded at the premises of the Jubilee House. And we find it very unfortunate, and we want the police to take up this matter. These are persons who committed crimes on camera. They were known, and these people can easily be traced to all the media houses who have done their work very well. I want to use the opportunity to commend the reporters and the cameramen. They were very strict. They were very straight. Precision was right, and they were able to pick all the angles. I don't think that the police has any reasonable excuse to say that they cannot find the perpetrators. Up to today, it's worrying that nobody, not a single person, has been arrested. I think that we need to call on the civil society. They have been quiet. Nobody has said anything. We need to call on the religious authorities. I heard the National Peace Council, Dr. Amoa, he made a statement yesterday condemning it. We don't just need a program condemnation, but it should be an official condemnation that can be put on record, to be put in the right perspective.
Haruna, stay with me because I'll come to you just to get updates of operations so far for the delegates conference. But let's stay on Ablekuma North and the violence that erupted on that day. And let me bring in a criminologist now to join the conversation. Jones Opokuware, he's a criminologist, he's joined us live here on the Pulse. We appreciate your time. Now, it's been days after the violence we saw at Ablekuma North. No arrests yet. Yesterday we heard from government telling us that they're indeed reviewing some of the footages to help identify the individuals. But really, is that enough?
Sure, and a very good afternoon to you and also to your viewers. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can hear me, what I want to say is that it's a step in the right direction, but I think that, you know, in terms of the speed with which this thing should be done, this investigation should be done, I think there is some sort of, you know, strategy when it comes to, you know, what the police is supposed to do. Because if you look at what has happened, I mean, all of us saw what happened I think the last few days, and there are videos and there are pictures of, you know, these tags and what they went to Ablekuma North to do. I mean, you don't need days for you to review these things. I mean, these people, their faces are so clear, and it's very easy for you to, you know, as it were, pick them up. And I'm thinking that once we've gone for almost 3 or 4 days and nothing has happened, I think that it is something that is supposed to be worrying for all of us as a people. And I think that the police will have to be up and doing and make sure that they get to these guys and get them to face the full rigors of the law.
But as a criminologist, how do you propose we identify the individuals, especially when both political parties are shifting blames or claiming that these are not members of their party?
Well, they may not be members of their party, but everybody and everything suggests that these guys came in and working for one particular group of people. Okay, and for me, I don't think an NDC group of NPP group of people will go and attack their own Hawaii Kumsin when it's an election that they themselves are fighting. And so obviously, I mean, a cursory look at it will tell anybody that these guys were working for the ruling government. And if you look at the way they acted and the way they carried out this attack, it suggests to me that it was carefully orchestrated. Instructions were carefully given for them to go and execute whatever they went there to do. And so it is not something that anybody, especially the ruling government, NDC, who should be able to, distance themselves from these guys. I think that obviously by the deeds and action on the day and on the ground, based on what we've seen, these were guys that were working for the NDC, and they must own up to this. Their leaders must be very blunt and make sure that they give these people up, because, I mean, some of us know where some of these guys probably were even procured from, the movements and all that, but they need to own up, because when they decide not to own up and get their acts together, this is what gives rise to the kind of impunity, this kind of impunity that we've been seeing over the period. And I think that for me as a criminologist, I'm very worried, because this is a pattern that seems to have been perpetuated over the period, not even just today, but we can go way back to all the by-elections that we've been having in this country. And once we decide to perpetuate this kind of gang culture in the country, it becomes very difficult for us to even guarantee people's security and even be able to guarantee our democracy. And that is why I'm saying that let's be blunt, let's face the truth, because this is an existential threat against our democracy and even against our electoral processes. And it is not something that we can bury our head in the sand and pretend as if we don't know them. What were their business there? Who brought them there?
We've heard from the NDC state on record categorically that they cannot be associated with this group of individuals. With the police currently reviewing the footages, I'm wondering, how can they access the database to be able to identify these individuals? What's the process they ought to go through to fast track the whole issue?
Well, I mean, luckily for us, these guys have their faces on camera, and I don't know which other means it is that we can use to easily get them, especially when we have them on camera. So the camera videos and all those things is a key evidence for us to be able to get these guys and get them to come and face justice. So I'm thinking that once they are reviewing the video, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and we are waiting with all the patients to know the kind of names and the kind of places they are going to put out when the police come out with their review of the videos. But based on the videos that we all seen, there are certain key personalities that were at the forefront of this, and they are the people who we expect to see their faces on video, and they are the faces that we expect the police to arrest and get them to face the full rigors of. So it shouldn't be something very difficult for the police, especially when, even without any professional cameras, people who were there and took all these amateur videos were able to capture the faces of this guy, the guy who was flying and all those guys. And even afterwards, these guys were in pickup and not, doing signs as if they want to slaughter people and all that. So it shouldn't be something that should be easy for the police, especially when there is this camera evidence for us to identify and profile these people and bring them to book.
We have another by-election on our hands with Akwatia. What lessons can we learn from what happened at Ablekuma North that can help with security measures in the upcoming by-elections?
Well, I think I've made this point on your sister station in Kumasi on Love FM, and I said that, look, I think we need to review the processes of, guarding, especially polling stations that we've been deploying over the period. I don't understand why us are there, because there's a clear pattern that a lot of the violence occurs during, these by-elections. Why don't we arm the police to serve as a deterrent to people who want to come and cause chaos at these centers? So that policy of not allowing, as it were, police to have, ammunitions and other gadgets, protective gadgets around police stations during exams, I think it's very wrong. It's high time we review, because all the patterns of evidence suggest that because they know the police don't have these kind of accoutrements to secure the polling stations, people gather en masse and run over them and disrupt the electoral process. So it is something that I think we have to review that process, especially going into, for instance, the Akwatia election. I'm expecting that the IGP and all those that matter in terms of security will equip the police in terms of, all the accoutrements that they will need to police, the polling station, and make sure that all the polling stations that the elections are supposed to be taken can be properly secured, and then we don't have some of these tags, coming in to disrupt the process and also attacking people because they have been sent by some people to go and disrupt the process. I think that is very wrong, and I think that one of the things we have to do is that we have to review that protocol and make sure that the police are properly armed to secure all polling stations.
Some security analysts argue that the police have simply lost the respect of the citizens, and it's high time we introduce the military, especially when it comes to our elections. Should that be the way to go?
Well, I don't think that still we need the military. I think it hasn't gotten to the stage where the military will have to come in, but I still think, and based on the comments I've already made, I still think that the police will have to be armed. Okay, it is only when I feel that the situation is becoming too volatile and becoming too extreme that maybe we will call the military as backup. But if the police are well equipped and they are giving all the protective accoutrement for them to secure the polling station, I'm sure they can be able to police these polling stations. Because if you look at typically the numbers of people that even vote in a polling station, they are not many. It tells you that these are numbers that the police can manage, especially if they have the guns and all those things there to secure the police. So for now, I mean, from a very professional point of view, I think that for now we don't really need a military as yet. But let's review the protocol. Let's get the police to be well armed and well secure. Because I know, based on the evidence I've seen at Ablekuma North, if the police were armed, I'm sure just even a warning shot would have scared some of these guys away, and they could have properly secured the police station and avoid some of these things. But the people knew that these guys were unarmed. The police had nothing there. They were just there in uniform. They just wore uniform and came to stand there without any proper, security protocol. So that is why they were able to outrun them and did the things they did there. So why don't we review the process? And I'm sure our polling stations could be well secured going forward.
I appreciate your time, John Tupokwari. He's a criminologist. Join us here on the Pulse. Thank you so much. Well, away from that, the Ministry of Defense has withdrawn military protection from all civilians who are not legally entitled to such services, including some public officials, former ministers and businessmen. The move forms part of government efforts to restore discipline and accountability within Ghana's security structure. Announcing the directive in a Facebook post, the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Amani-Boama, described the decision as a key component of government's broader reset agenda focused on promoting transparency and responsive governance. And that post is on social media and as well as my joyonline.com. You can take a look at it. Away from that, tensions are rising in Dawa Ado Oting, a farming community in the Ningo Prampram district of the Greater Accra region, where residents are protesting the presence of the military on their ancestral farmlands. The locals claim that their lands have been taken over without consultation, disrupting their livelihoods. There's more in the following report.
In the farming village of Dawa Ado Otin, anxiety is growing over what residents describe as encroachment on their farmlands by a private company backed by military presence. According to the residents, the land was inherited generations ago and serves as their sole source of livelihood through farming and animal rearing. However, they say a company, LMI Holdings, now claims ownership of portions of the land allegedly sold by a community elder without community consensus. Spokesperson for the community, William Adela, stated that the company's operations are destroying crops and displacing farmers, worsening economic hardship.
We, the elders and members of the Adoten family of Lower Konosalutin of Great Ningo traditional area in Dawa, do on this day release to general public our displeasure regarding how our family land is being treated by a private entity with no LMI Holdings. LMI Holdings in few weeks, a month passed and currently destroying our land and farm crops. As farmers, these dining activities have and cutting down our source of livelihoods.
He further petitioned government and relevant agencies to immediately help withdraw the military from their farmlands and investigate the land transaction.
We call on the defense minister to withdraw the military men from our land back to their barracks.
Yes.
We call on the stakeholders, security agencies, and other state agencies to come to our aid and redeem our land.
Yes.
When contacted, head of LMI Dawa Industrial Zone Niama stated that the institution adheres to all legal and regulatory requirements guiding development projects in Ghana. Nonetheless, he says the institution will take the necessary steps to come out to address the issue accordingly.